Good morning. Welcome to Village in Motion. My name is Susan Gerhard. Today is 15 April 2016. The good news is that it's not tax day. Tax day isn't until the 18th this year. This morning we have with us Kathleen Taylor, who is our social work manager, and Kathleen is here this morning to talk with us and help us learn more about Advance Directives. Good morning.
Hi. Yeah, well, as some of the residents that have been here for a while know, I'm on every year. The 16th is National Healthcare Decisions Day, which is tomorrow. And I always like to use that as kind of a touch point for people to kind of remind them of the importance of doing an advance directive if they haven't already done one. Or if they have done one, to take it out of the drawer, dust it off, and look at it. And make sure that their preferences are still the same regarding end-of-life care. Probably most importantly, if they have their medical power of attorneys, usually you have a primary agent and a secondary agent, make sure that those people are still available and able to act on their behalf.
Okay, you've really lost me, Kathleen. Not lost me completely.
Okay.
But let's slow down and back up. What is an advance directive?
Okay. Well, an advance directive is a document which states what your preferences would be for end-of-life care in advance of a situation that may occur. The advance directive is, it states your preferences, and then it also will have a space for designated your health care agent.
So you're talking about a specific type of advance directive. There are a variety of types of documents that are referred to as advance directives, correct?
There are living wills. The specific difference, they look all different. I mean, Virginia has one document that is kind of their template. But as far as people going and writing up their own or doing, anything that they want to do in terms of putting down their preferences and wishes.
So you're focusing more on healthcare, medical advance directives versus a financial advance directive. There are other kinds of documents that are referred to as advance directives. Some are financial, but you're specifically focusing on those that are dealing with medical issues and the individual's wishes for his or her end-of-life care.
Correct. And actually, I've never heard of I've not ever heard of financial documents being called advance directives, because the advance directives is about an advanced planning.
I have to say, I went out and I looked on the internet, and we all know that if it's on the internet, it must be true.
Well,
so I think that's an example of how there's a lot of information out there, and you can help us focus on what we need to focus on.
Sure. So the advance directive that I'm referring to is a healthcare directive. The power of attorneys that I'm referring to are not durable general power of attorneys, because people do get those mixed up a lot, which are more the financial power of attorneys. These are healthcare power of attorneys that can act as your healthcare agent, and it's important for people to realize that these documents don't get activated. Again, unlike a financial power of attorney, as a rule, the medical power of attorneys and advance directives don't get activated until you have been determined to lack decision-making capability. So, and usually...
Determined by whom?
Usually what the document states is, and this is kind of the boilerplate, is two physicians. One being your primary care physician and one being another physician that hasn't treated you.
Okay.
Some documents have different stipulations, and every once in a while you run into one doesn't require an activation. It becomes active immediately upon executing the document, but that's really rare. So we always have to look at the documents to see exactly what they say in terms of what the process needs to be.
Okay, I have lots of questions popping up in my line, but let me try to back myself up and focus with you on the documents that we fill out here at Green Spring, that we were all asked to fill out when we arrived, and many of us had filled out prior to that. These are documents that are kept on file here at Green Spring and are then pulled out when we have some kind of a medical emergency that keeps us from being medically able to communicate the decisions about what we want to happen with our care, correct?
Yeah, exactly. They're there. They are electronically in our electronic medical records, as long as we've been given them. So that's the chance for me to say, make sure that your social worker has a copy of your most recent advance directive, so we can load it into the electronic medical record. Those records are shared throughout our system, so that means that the medical center has them. That means that if you go to Garden Ridge, we're able to pull them up there and print a copy to put on your chart. So they're available. If you go out 911, security has the ability to access that.
That was one
record.
of my questions.
But I will say it's really important, because that's sort of time consuming, and a lot of times the security might not have the capability of pulling that record up in a timely enough manner if you need to be going out quickly. We do recommend that people keep a copy of their advanced medical directive either on their refrigerator or the back of their front door. Those are the two places that emergency responders know to look.
Let's really emphasize that. If we just had a simple plastic sleeve and either on the refrigerator or on the back of the front door, what other documents might be good to include in that packet?
The only document that's really probably important at that point in time, because of timeliness, is if you have a durable do not resuscitate order.
Okay. And what is a durable do not resuscitate order?
Okay. A durable do not resuscitate order is it's a piece of paper, it's a document, which states that you do not wish to have cardiopulmonary resuscitation in the event that you stop breathing or that your heart stops. This is an order by your physician. So this is something that you go to your physician, you talk to them about your medical situation and your wishes again, and then between the two of you determine whether CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, is something that you would want to have or not want to have. If you decide that you don't want to have it, then that would be when the doctor would fill out that form and you would have it, and you would place a copy of that in that sleeve as well.
So this is a different document from the advance directive.
Yeah, and and that's a good point. I think a lot of people get confused that they have an advance directive that says that they don't want CPR and they don't want life-prolonging procedures.
I would have been one of those people.
But that isn't, you need a physician's order. Now the advance directive, taking it to the hospital, then the physician that's caring for you there will be able to review that. And even if you're not able to advocate for yourself, they would have information, and they would also have your medical power of attorney to talk to about your code status. But code status is different than advance directives. And code status is something, it's a doctor's order that you have when you go into either a hospital or a facility like Garden Ridge. That order has to be written at the time that you're admitted into that facility. They can use the advance directive to inform that order, but it doesn't automatically equate into that order. If you have the durable do not resuscitate, that is actually the primary goal for that is to protect you if you don't want CPR in an emergency response situation.
Okay, so let me just confirm. I don't mean to be
It's
difficult, but
information.
I think I'm probably typical. Document 1 is an advance directive, and the advance directive is going to stipulate what kind of care will be given to me if I'm in a life-ending kind of situation or a potentially life-ending situation. Is that correct?
There's most of them actually stipulate two different conditions. One is imminent death. And the second is you have a condition that may be more chronic but has impacted your quality of life and you will not recover from that condition.
So this is really a reminder to all of us about the importance of, and I'm sure that I'm typical in that when we moved here, yes, we had 14 different pieces of paper to fill out, and we filled them out and turned them in. That, you're right, tax time is a good time of year to go back and say, okay, what does this say? Is this still what I want? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm saying. I think another point I wanted to make too is, in terms of when the power of attorney or the advance directive is activated, in terms of surrogate decision making, is I think a lot of people do only think it's in that imminent death situation or in a chronic health care condition where they are not going to ever recover. Another situation that people need to think about is there's going to be times when you might have a medical condition where you need to go under anesthesia. Or you might have a condition where you are really not able to be conscious for a period of time. Which
I did earlier this week, a short period of anesthesia, and the doctors asked me, do you have an advance directive on file here at the hospital?
Right. Good for them. Yeah, so those are the temporary situations that you also want to think about. Because I think people go, oh, I'm okay, I have time to figure this out. But you just sort of never know. When a situation might come up, when it's only like for 24 hours, but you just don't know what might happen.
So in my massive research of 20 pages on the internet last night, one of the things that I read was the importance of having an advance directive, having multiple copies of it passed through multiple people, because you don't know where you're going to be when something happens. Or, for instance, I was just in Ohio for a week and a half, and we were there, and what if something had happened to my husband or me while we were there? Nobody knew particularly, other than our address, where we lived and what kind of an organization might have this on file. It might have been wise in a place where I'm visiting for a long period of time to have something like that with me, which brings up another question. Is an advance directive valid in more than one state? Will my Virginia advance directive be recognized if something happens to me while I'm in Ohio?
What I mostly understand is that as long as that advance directive sort of meets the criteria for that other state, and all of them are really pretty general. I've seen some from most states, and they are. So if you kind of stick with something that's kind of more of a template and don't create it on your own, you're probably safe. The only other recommendation is that if you're going to be in a state that's different than the one that the advance directive was done in for a long period of time, or you're moving to that state, go ahead and get another one done if you're able to do that.
Even people who are snowbirds, people who go to Florida for 4 or 5 months during the wintertime, should they have one for Florida?
I don't think it's necessary. You know, I think I might at that point, when I'm in Florida, you know, go to a hospital and sort of, you know, maybe talk to somebody there. There's different resources and hospitals that could tell you whether that advance directive would hold. My sense is yes, but, you know, I don't want to give people wrong information either.
In other words, a good thing to check if you're going to be someplace for a long period of time. So that was the advance directive, and I slowed you down at a point where you were mentioning multiple documents. There was a second one you mentioned about having to do with CPR.
That's the durable do not resuscitate.
I have to write this down because I will not remember it.
Yeah.
Durable do not resuscitate, often referred to as DNR,
That's
the do not resuscitate part. And if you will, please explain that to us again.
Okay, it's basically a document which is a physician's order, which you have agreed with the physician that you would not want CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and you that will be something that will cover you basically if you are in a 911 situation.
So this is my primary care provider that I go to, and this would also be kept in this package on the refrigerator or on the door. And what if I change doctors? Is this order still good? Okay, so that could be good for some number of years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like people to think that any of these documents are one and done. They're living documents. And so if you have one primary care physician that's done this DNR and then you have another one, you need to let that other doctor know what your wishes are too. And probably to have it updated is not a bad idea, because at times, sometimes, that physician might be contacted by a hospital physician, for example.
And I guess they ask that because we use military medical facilities, as do many of our residents here, and it's sometimes the doctor of the week. So,
sure.
To change those with every doctor would be difficult.
You don't have to do that. But definitely, I like that they are always being reviewed and always being considered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those two documents, and are there other documents that should be in that some people call it a flyaway package, some people call it a go-away package?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for a medical emergency, I think.
Okay.
I think that we've been focusing a lot on the documents, and I do also want to get into the how you have conversations with your medical power of attorney, because again, just saying again, that as a living document, it's not something that you can't put all the possible scenarios in your advance directive that you would want to have addressed.
So a medical power of attorney is a third kind of document, but also a medical power of attorney refers to an individual or potential group of individuals, correct?
Typically, the advance directive has two pieces. One is what your wishes are, advanced wishes, advanced healthcare wishes. The second is who you're designating as your medical power of attorney or healthcare agent.
So you're talking about the medical power of attorney not being a document, but a person.
Well, it's a person, but the person's designated in the document.
Right, and that's what I want to be clear about, because
You
we're throwing terms around there, and
Right.
it's confusing.
Right. You have to have that in writing. For that person to be your designated healthcare agent, you have to have that in writing.
Okay.
But what's important then is to have that person be knowledgeable about what your wishes and your preferences are.
Okay, let's talk more about that. Do I need to have one of those people?
Absolutely.
Okay, and who do I choose?
Great question. You choose the person who you feel will best be able to advocate for you in a situation where there might be a crisis, there might be some confusion, there might be some pressure in terms of choosing medical treatments that may not necessarily be something that they can refer to in your advanced care document and be able to figure out. So that's why I say that it's important for people to have those conversations. But the person needs to be somebody that you can talk to.
And somebody who is willing to take on that responsibility.
And somebody that's willing to take on that responsibility. Separate themselves and their beliefs and wishes from yours as an advocate. That's really crucial, because we can run into trouble with that sometimes. Sometimes families will pick somebody who, if they have children, for example, they'll pick their oldest child. That oldest child may not be the best person for all of the reasons that I just said.
Sure.
So we really like people to think about that, because when you're unconscious, you really have to rely on that person to be your voice.
And that was a question, a point that one of the publications I read brought up, that what if my family members disagree with it? And thus the importance of having the discussion with this person,
Right.
that this person is going to honor what you want to do and not put something in the works that is
Right.
in the midst of this very stressful time anyway.
Exactly, because medical power of attorneys can overrule your advance directive.
They can overrule?
So if you have, in the moment, you could probably somebody could probably go to court at some point and
Sure.
get that changed. But in the moment, the medical power of attorney, even if you have it clearly down that you don't want to have CPR, they can overrule that. They are now acting as you in that situation. So that's where you really have to have that person.
That really serious conversation.
That you can trust, really. And
Right.
I mean, a lot of times it might not be a family member. A lot of times it could be your best friend, or, it could be any number of people. It just has to be somebody that you feel confident can listen to you, separate from your choices, and be able to articulate those choices in a stressful situation.
I'm going to bring up a question with you that you and I have discussed before, and I'm still looking for advice, and there may not be advice, and that is for the person who doesn't have someone in their life that either they feel comfortable asking that person to serve as that medical power of attorney, or that they don't have anyone in their life who feels comfortable doing that job. Are there social services with the state, with the county, that one can leave one's wishes with, and that service then communicates that?
No. You could hire, for example, you could hire a geriatric care manager who could act as your health care
so that is a service
maker.
There is such.
It is a service that you can arrange for. It's not through the county. These are private agencies, but still, that's something that you can do. You had mentioned off before when we talked about. People do have attorneys, people do have physicians sometimes. That's sometimes difficult when somebody leaves the practice, they might not be available. But
there are people that you can hire to make these decisions and to communicate your wishes.
There are people that you can hire. There would be a professional relationship.
And that's a good thing, because as I understand it, again, the ever not always believable internet, there are situations where if there's not something in place for someone to make those decisions, that medical people must treat you, even though your wish might have been that you did not want to be treated.
Oh, absolutely. The default is they're going to do everything.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens if it's not an immediate problem, but you've lost capacity and you have ongoing health problems, is in Virginia, the Code of Virginia stipulates a surrogacy hierarchy. And those are not necessarily people that you would choose.
Right.
They're your relatives. So the order is a spouse.
So that's the value
siblings.
of coming up with someone, whether it's someone personally known to you or whether it's someone you hire or a company that will have people who will do this for you. It may not be the ideal situation.
It's better than having to
reality.
go that direction.
Yes. Right.
Yes. So anything that you choose is better than something that you don't choose.
Kathleen, it seemed like we had a long time to talk here, and about a
told
minute
you.
and a half ago, you told me, about a minute and a half ago, I got the 5-minute warning, and I know there's another seminar that you want to tell us about.
Yeah, I did. Just sort of along the lines of, how important it is, I think, as people get older, starting to reflect back on their lives, sort of lessons learned, really thinking about what their values are, things that they might want to pass on to friends, family, about sort of, what they've decided about life, and that's how we're talking about it in terms of a legacy, not financial legacy or tables that you're passing on and things like that, but the idea that you're passing on your values.
Okay.
And so to that end, we're going to have a legacy seminar called Exploring Your Legacy. That's going to happen on May 13th, which is a Friday. From 1:30 to 3 o'clock in the Akatank room. And there's going to be a series of discussions. The first one is going to be on ethical wills. And that's going to be Joyce Gubbins, who's going to be talking about different ways to communicate. She has done a lot of work on ethical wills herself, and so has some examples of what those ethical wills might look like.
Can you give us in one sentence a definition of what an ethical will is?
It's really just putting down in writing what you've learned about your life, kind of reflecting back, telling stories, personal stories about what's important to you, the one value or belief that you have that's really made your life worth living, celebrating.
Sometimes some of the questions that we don't think to ask those who have left us, every one of us has said, if I'd only asked Grandma that, if I'd only asked my father this.
Exactly right, exactly right. That's the common thread with all of this, is people saying, ask people these questions when you
Right.
can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what other speakers?
So we have Paul Gonson, who's also a resident. Joyce is a resident as
Okay.
well. And he's going to be speaking on oral traditions and family histories. He's got, a lot of stories that his family passed on orally as opposed to in writing, that were traditions that came alive just as people talked about
Sure.
them with their
Right.
families. The third one is going to be on Advance Directives, and
Good.
it's going to focus not really on the document so much at all, but it's about the idea that you are, again, passing on your values and your belief systems and the choices that you make at end of life. And the final one is going to be Marcia Boyles, and she's going to do something on memoir writing, writing memoirs and autobiographies, and why one would want to do that and how they would go about doing that.
In a way, this all sounds very selfish, and the smart aleck part of my brain is saying, why would anybody care? But people do care, but perhaps not about me, but people in our families, things that we would like to know. That I do a lot of genealogy work.
There you
so
go.
much
Yeah.
information that we don't have,
Yeah.
that we can't pull out.
I think there's just a basic human need to feel connected.
Yeah.
And to be able to look back into your past and then look
Right.
ahead and just sort of see where you fit.
Yeah.
And
Good
that
project.
Yeah.
So this is May 13th.
May 13th
And where is it located?
in the Akatank room.
In
right
the
down
Akatank
here,
room,
yeah.
and the time?
1:30 to 3. And there is going to be lots of information on Channel 6 and also on the bulletin boards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Tell me, I think we have maybe a minute left. Tell me what else you'd like to tell us today.
I think we've talked a lot about everything. I'm just going to ask everybody to, the minute the show is done, go
and rifle
find their
through the
advance
paperwork.
directive, make sure their medical power of attorney is able to serve, pick up the phone, give them a call, tell them what you're thinking.
And probably the best piece of advice that I read was, don't store your advance directive in your safe deposit box.
Oh, no.
That is not the place for it.
Yeah, and if you make sure that your social work has a copy, that we can get it into the system.
Okay.
Good point.
Good deal. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
We've learned a lot. And thanks to all of you for joining us. I do have a couple of announcements here. And first, I want to remind you of the importance of investing in our scholars, our student scholars. We have 48 of them this year. We need lots more money than we have already, and we encourage you. This is a wonderful investment. I remind you that, there are a lot of people, a lot of our scholars that help us in our eating venues every day. We are not able to tip them for their good service, but this is the ultimate tip to help them fund further education. So please do invest. There are flyers available at front desk. There's some other places around. Each of us received them in our cubbies, so please invest in our scholars.